Welcome to another episode of Preparing for the Unexpected. I'm your host, Alex Fullick, and as always, we like to talk about things related to business continuity, resilience, disaster, emergency management, COVID, well-being, anything that helps you, your organization, or your community prepare for, respond to, and overcome adverse situations. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, please feel free. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Alex Fullick there. I'm really easy to find, and I do respond to everything I get. A couple of quick announcements. I will be co-presenting a keynote speech at the BCI World in London, England on November 2nd and 3rd with Margaret Millett. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. And second announcement, James Green and I, who you may know from our This Week in Business Continuity segments, will be broadcasting live from the Continuity and Resilience Today conference in Toronto, November 16th and 17th. So hopefully you're there and you come and see us, or tune in and listen to us, make fools of ourselves. But we'll see. As you know, longtime listeners and viewers, I love to read articles, books, magazines, anything. I just love getting my hands on different pieces of information. And recently, or actually, I guess it would be a couple of months ago now, there was an article on a website titled Problems with the Podium. Does gold take all in crisis response? And this had to do with the gold, silver, and bronze rankings in emergency management. And I thought, you know what, that's an interesting topic. So I reached out to the author, who is my guest today. And I'd like to welcome to the show, Robin Bucknall. Robin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. It's great to be here.
And now I know about you because we've sent messages back and forth and looked at LinkedIn profiles and things like that. Can you take a minute or so and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into this crazy industry of ours?
Thank you, Alex. So my career is a military one. I was a Royal Marine for 32 years. The latter part of my career was involved in international capacity building, working cross government. I was lucky enough to be seconded to a Ministry of Defence group that helped the UK government prepare for in 2020 for its or develop its winter COVID plans for the first COVID winter. And then in parallel to that, I did an academic master's degree in risk, crisis and disaster management, which really sort of sparked my interest in business continuity, which is why when I retired from the Royal Marines, I joined Needham's 1834, which is the organisation I work for now. And in parallel, I've just become a member of the Business Continuity Institute.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Now, I want to read something how you introduce this. Gold, silver, and bronze command tiers are a common way of structuring crisis response. The approach has been borrowed from the UK emergency services, but does it always successfully transfer to other organizations? And that's what we're going to talk about today, because where I'm from in North America, the gold, silver, bronze isn't really used very much, if at all. So can you explain what gold, silver, bronze tiering in emergency management is and where it came from? Like, where?
Absolutely, Alex. So essentially, it is just that it's a command and control structure. It's a structure for incident management and crisis response specifically, and it's been adopted as the standard for the UK emergency services. Not only that, but through our Civil Contingencies Act in 2004 and the formation of local resilience forums, the Act designated not only the emergency services, but also a number of other organizations to be responders, and that included utilities, transport companies. And so what's happened over time is that the nomenclature of gold, silver, and bronze has now percolated down into the public sector, but also the private sector. And so you see, certainly in UK, the terminology being used for crisis response structures becoming more common.
Where did it come from? Because it says adopted from emergency management, but the emergency managers I know, at least on this side of the ocean, don't really use that or haven't used that or talked about it. So how did it come about? Is it from a standard? What?
So, Alex, it all started. So in the 1980s, in London, we had a number of race-related public disorder riots. And one particular one, at a place called Broadwater Farm in 1985, the Metropolitan Police response was not particularly good and confused, to say the least, and resulted in the death of a police officer, PC Keith Blakelock. And in the review after that particular response, it was determined that no one really knew who was in command of the police during the event, and the whole event was relatively poorly managed because it relied on the existing structures. Now, the Metropolitan Police is 33,000 strong police force, divided into 20 districts with sub-districts and various police stations, and so it was a very, very hierarchical, rank-based structure, which was deemed to have contributed to the failures on that particular incident. And the review after that determined that really there were three things that needed to be done. One was set the strategic direction. The next one was to coordinate the tactical response, and then a different responsibility to deal with the operational response. And that's where that gold, silver, and bronze nomenclature came from.
So how do you determine who is gold, silver, and bronze then? Because you mentioned a key word there, the hierarchical structure. If I'm a VP and all of a sudden I'm in bronze, I'm going to turn around and say, "Oh, wait a minute, I'm a VP. I should be gold."
So I think, Alex, there's two things to this. First of all, is taking the origins of the emergency services, because it came from them, and therefore the logic you follow from them. So the emergency services determined that actually it was who was the best place person to take command, and that is not necessarily rank specific. And so the whole structure is designed to get away from rank. And so a gold commander could be running an incident, and a more senior officer may turn up, but doesn't automatically assume responsibility. Also, the gold commander can be, in UK we have the doctrine of police primacy. So the default position is for the police to be in overall charge. But for instance, if it is a fire, then the fire service would have primacy, and so you could have a gold commander being a senior fire officer. Likewise, the silver commander could be a fire officer, and also the bronze. But also the other emergency services would then mirror that with their own people to make sure they're plugging in at the appropriate levels.
How do you coordinate that though? Like, is it just understood that it's fire, so fire's in charge here, or the fire marshal is in charge, or whatever their title type is? But if you have everybody who thinks they're gold, can that not cause confusion, or how? So
the whole idea of the gold, silver, bronze is that it is an adaptive setup. So it's actually relatively light on the specifics in terms of who it is. So it can be, so the first person on the scene who takes charge would automatically assume the role of being the bronze commander until relieved. So for instance, if it's the police that arrive first, they would form the bronze command. If it turns out that it's a fire, and therefore the fire service is more appropriate to take the lead, that would be transferred across. So for an emergency that starts at the lowest level on the ground, you would start with a bronze command. If it was deemed to be a big incident, then maybe a silver and a gold would then step up, and that would then be determined by the police command structure, and the police command structure would nominate the silver and gold commanders. Likewise, the fire or ambulance service. If it was a pre-planned event, so for instance, a large public gathering or a state event, then in advance, the emergency service would meet together and determine who would be the gold commander, where it would be located, how many silver commanders may be required, how many bronze commanders may be required. So that would be done, but that would be done in a joint planning forum between the emergency services as a deliberate activity.
And as you said, if I understood correctly, as the situation unfolds, then whose gold may change and whose silver may change and whose brown may change, depending on the situation as it unfolds, right?
Yeah. So the joy of the bronze, silver, and gold is it's underpinned by the Joint Emergency Services Integration Principles, the GSB, which is a doctrine that's designed in UK to forge greater interoperability between the emergency services, and it is promoting sort of common planning systems, the command and control system, and so on. So the idea being is that the emergency services automatically understand that gold is for the strategic level, silver is the tactical level, and bronze is the operational level. And so if they arrive at the incident and they say, well, where's the bronze headquarters? They know where to dock into. And the bronze commander would automatically try and find the police bronze headquarters, and silver and gold the same, if they're not co-located.
How do you, just out of curiosity, how do you exercise something like that? Because if you're exercising, let's say, and testing, and it's based on a fire scenario, well, then you kind of automatically know fire is going to be in charge. But so are there challenges with exercising so that everyone gets a chance to move around and try new things, so that as things unfold, everyone learns, not just one situation where automatically who the gold is going to be?
So in UK, we have our emergency services, particularly the police, are regionally based, and within each of the regions you have a local resilience forum, which is chaired by the chief police officer. But all of those category responders, the category 1 and category 2 responders, meet on a regular basis to discuss issues, update each other, but also that would be the routine basis where they would come together to discuss matters of integration in the event of a crisis. Also, they would share lessons learned from particular events like flooding or fires or other major incidents. But also the emergency services do in this country practice large-scale events. They have their tabletop planning exercises. They would do planning for big events. And indeed, we've had in the past either exercises, live exercises for terrorist incidents or for other disasters.
Yes, I a couple of weeks ago, I drove through a live event that was happening in my city. I didn't know what was going on. For a second, I was actually freaking out, going, "Oh my God, something's going on!" But it was actually one of these live events. So I know we've been talking about emergency services. Is this adaptable to other organizations like manufacturing or pharmaceuticals or financial? Is it something that can be used, first of all,
Yes.
and then I've got a follow up to that after?
Sure, Alex. So the joy of the bronze, silver, and gold structure is that it's shorthand for strategic, tactical, operational, and because of that, it is quite intuitive, and it's adaptable to the needs of individual organizations. But that doesn't mean to say that it will suit every organization. For large organizations with quite established hierarchies, it will fit that strategic, tactical, and operational quite neatly. For small organizations on a single site, there may not be a requirement for 3 levels, and therefore, actually, you may need to compress the strategic and tactical, or the tactical and operational, depending on the nature of the organization. For organizations with very flat hierarchies, again, you may not have that determination of 3 levels. It may actually just be 1 level of decision making. And then for multinationals that are in multiple regions and multiple countries, a simple strategic, tactical, and operational may not be that neat, and it may require a bit of refinement to actually reflect the realities of how decision making needs to occur.
And that was the end of segment 1 of my talk with Robin Bucknall, talking about the gold, silver, and bronze tiering from Emergency Management Services for our crisis management response. We'll be right back with segment 2.
If you like that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.